solution, or this protest is going to go on actually for some more time?
Actually, the
And it could get deadly as well.
Actually, dilemma is because Modi Sarkar, and I think our friends from India aptly pointed out, because they have been funded by the corporate sector. So so their commitment towards the corporate financier is too much. On the other hand, the grievance of the people is also significant, and it is growing.
The grievance of the people,
Absolutely.
I think, to me is more important.
Yes.
That should be addressed on ASAP basis.
Because the test of essentially the test of the political system and success is, does it reflect and represent the will of the people or not? And the current dispensation does not seem even sensitive, let alone representative.
Sir,
of their
there was
concern.
this young Sikh, his name was Naresh Singh, and somebody was interviewing him, and and he said, "Well, look at our commitment." This was the person who said that we can stay here for 1 year, and he just drove his tractor into the cloud of that tear gas. What I'm saying is, this is the level of commitment. And as far as Sikhs are concerned, I'm not sure about the rest of.
They're a very proud community.
They're very proud, committed, very proud, very committed, very patriotic, and good people.
They are no nonsense. They will not
take this at all.
They will not take this from BJP.
Exactly, and I don't think they will back up. But there has to be a proper course of action. There should be proper negotiations. And yes, we do understand that the corporate culture has a lot of influence. But I think the people of India matter more. These farmers matter more. Food security, water security. This is a part of the national security.
Because if BJP doesn't reflect and listen to their grievances, they will let nobody down except their own nation.
All right, sir. Anyway, Ali, thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure having you in the show. And I would also thank our friends from UK, Magan Singh Saab. Thank you so much, sir, for your participation. And Mandeep Singh Bajwa, it was a pleasure having you, sir. We will keep on, in fact, having you in our shows as well in the future. But it was a pleasure talking to you. And let's hope that the issues are sorted out soon, sir, and the farmers are given, a free hand to farm and to produce and to look after the affairs of India. It was lovely talking to you, sir. Thank you so much. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you, inshallah, tomorrow at 8. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.
in the Himalayas on the northern fringes of Pakistan, you find some of the most stunning, gorgeous and intimidating high mountain peaks on earth. It's why the great Marco Polo named this place the roof of the world. And below these mighty peaks, there lie valleys untouched by outward influence, where life is pure and serene. There lies a heaven of strange and incredible sights, a place so perfect, so harmonious.
Politics is not everybody's cup of tea. In Pakistan, politics has endless possibilities. Politics is the art of the possible. But we have got you covered. Debate. For in-depth analysis. And insight. Watch Politics Today every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday at 9:05 p.m. with me, Farrukh Pitafi.
Sticking up for the unpopular. Calling out the controversial. Upholding the right of free speech. Giving you all the perspectives and letting you understand the true one. And I speak views and opinions. My name is Farrukh. Watch Perspective every Thursday and Friday at 9:05 p.m. on PTV World.
Good evening, Assalamu alaikum. You're watching PTV World. I'm Fahim Bangush with the headline news for this hour. Chairman Senate Sadiq Sanjarani meets Prime Minister Imran Khan. Parliamentary issues and matters related to legislation in the Senate discussed. Economy stands stabilized as a result of effective policies of the government. Information Minister Shibli Farrukh says benefits of improvement in the economic indicators will reach the masses. Kuwaiti delegation led by Deputy Foreign Minister for Asian Affairs Ali Suleiman As-Said meets Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi to discuss bilateral cooperation, CPEC and regional situation. Malaysian court disposes off the case regarding impounding of PIA plane after a settlement was reached with a leasing company outside the court. Prime Minister's Special Assistant on National Health Services Dr. Faisal Sultan says the government will provide COVID-19 vaccine free of cost to the general public as National Command and Operations Centre on COVID-19 devises a comprehensive plan to administer the vaccine. Delhi police detained 200 protesters following Tuesday's deadly violence in India's capital during a massive protest against agricultural reforms. Russia's parliament vote to ratify an extension of the New START nuclear arms control treaty, a move towards preserving the last major pact of its kind between Russia and the US. That's all for now. For further details and live streaming, do log on to our website world.ptv.com.pk. You can find us on our Facebook page with the name of PTV World and follow us on Twitter at WorldPTV. Thank you for joining us.
What is the real Pakistani society about? What are our beliefs and what are our aspirations? Reflecting the true picture of our otherwise misunderstood Pakistani society. Reality versus perception. Where do we see our place in the global society? Join me, Fatma Shaheen, in rediscovering the real Pakistani society.
Sitar is a plucked string instrument used in Pakistani classical music. The instrument flourished under the Mughal Empire. Sitar is named after a Persian word, setar, meaning three strings. It derives its distinctive timbre and resonance from sympathetic strings, bridge design, a long hollow neck, and a gourd-shaped resonance chamber. There are many popular modern styles of sitar, offered in a variety of sub-styles and decorative patterns.
The ancient city of Taxila is the heart of stonework in Pakistan. This art, which has been preserved and practiced for centuries, can be seen on many major landmarks of the country.
Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farrukh Pitafi. We are going to talk about domestic politics. Yesterday we discussed the question of Senate elections, whether because there is a presidential reference in the Supreme Court of Pakistan, the question was whether we are anticipating some kind of breakthrough for the government or not. And then the reports came that the government is going to actually not wait for the verdict in the case. It is going to try to amend the constitution to make sure that open ballot is included and people can write their names behind the ballot, which actually categorizes and gives the fraternities as well. This is an important development, but whether it can go through or not, it is a big question, right? Another very important aspect is accountability. Yesterday I mentioned that the government has formed a one-person commission to investigate broadsheet scandal. But on the other side, the opposition keeps on criticizing the whole idea of broadsheet saga. And then opposition was being criticized for trying to actually amend the NAB law. And what we have seen is yesterday the opposition even decided to withdraw the bills that it had introduced to actually amend the NAB law in the parliament. We are going to talk about all these matters, and then there is the question of Transparency International. Its report is pending, and apparently Pakistan is not progressing in the result. We are going to talk about all these matters and more. In order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Muhammad Ibrahim Khan Sahab, MNA of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Barrister Umar Malik joins us in the studio, an expert on legal and judicial matters. Last time he was here, he actually pointed out what will it take to ensure that the country can have an open ballot Senate elections. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Fareed Rais, a senior journalist, actually a young man, but still we call anchors senior journalist, is also joining us here. Fareed Rais, thank you very much for being part of the program. Ibrahim Khan Sahab, you don't have the numbers. How do you propose to actually amend the constitution by a two-third majority to ensure that the elections take place via open ballot, A, and B, elections are very near. I mean, you have to conduct them before 6th March. So what exactly happens?
So you see, when you have to make new laws, for making new laws you have to have a two-third majority. But making amendments in the laws, you need simple majority.
No, actually you have to amend the constitution. For amending the constitution, you need two-thirds.
For amending the constitution, we have a legal expert on that also. As if you were just talking about
amending the laws, then it is different, but we are talking about constitution.
Right. And as far as, I mean, the process of this Senate election is concerned, I think our intention was very simple, that it should be as clear as possible, because after every election, opposition was making false claims that it was rigged and this and that. So in order to avoid that, we were saying, okay, let's fix it for once and for all. But since the law of the land does not allow
fix
that.
What? Fix the process?
No.
Or fix the elections?
For God's sake.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I had to clarify that point, right?
fix the issue
Okay.
of whether the election is fair or not. Like by raising hands,
Okay.
I mean, it makes it clear that who's supporting who.
Right.
And in order to achieve that, we had made a recommendation to the Election Commission and onwards to the courts.
That
And
reference,
the
was
courts
sent to the
and
Honorable.
Election Commission are basically the authority to make a final decision on that.
Right.
So whatever the decision is, that will definitely
You're going to wait for the verdict, or you're going to amend the law?
What jurisdiction we have got, we will try our best to, because we strongly feel this is the way forward for even for coming elections. Like
Right. Barrister Saab, let me ask you to clarify this matter. What does it take to amend the bylaws to actually ensure that the election can take place via open ballot? And I understand that Senate elections have complications. One, it has multiple tiers. And because of the electoral college. Second, a voter in that electoral college actually gives preferences per seat. So that means that the elections by show of hands cannot practically take place. Just qualify both these things, and then we are going to talk about other things.
Farrukh, if you remember, in one of your programs recently, we had discussed this issue that under Article 226, all the elections under the Constitution had to be held under the secret ballot, and only except the elections of the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister. There are two exceptions only. So today, and even at that time, we had discussed it, and that without amending the Article 226 of the Constitution, we cannot go for the open ballot.
And that was the time when government was actually mulling over the idea of sending it to the Supreme Court. It had not sent the reference, but it did.
That was the time. Yeah. So now the thing is that under Article 239 of the Constitution, it can only be amended with the 2/3 majority. The bill can originate from either of the house, be it the National Assembly, be it the Senate. So either house, but with 2/3 majority. So once it is passed with 2/3 majority from one house, it has to go to the other house. It can be Senate or it can be National Assembly. Even in that house, it has to be
2/3 majority.
with the 2/3 majority,
and then you have to reconcile.
Then they have to reconcile, and it will be sent to the President for final notification. Assent. So now the question is that is the PDM or is the government ready to talk to PDM or all the other political parties in the National Assembly and the Senate to pass this amendment in the Constitution? I think today as we speak, there is nothing, I think, on, like there is no one ready to talk about from the government side. Or even on
even though the opposition might actually benefit from the idea, because in the recent elections it was the opposition that kept on losing through the secret ballot. But regarding the modality of Senate elections, show of hands, can they work? Or open ballot, if the law is amended, can that work?
Well, I think they'll have to amend the rules as well now, because in this election the situation is very different. Like they have to write down the preferences. So it is very difficult. Show of hands is not possible, of course. Like they can't say like with two hands, like 3, 4, like
5 or 10.
5 or 10. They can't do it. I mean, the rules have to be amended. So they'll have to also consider this. And even I think the government is also not clear on this, that how do they want to do it. Like would there be a ballot paper on which somebody would write the name and show it somewhere,
The idea is that on the back of the ballot paper, you can write the name of the person who is casting the vote, and that actually clarifies, that actually creates a record.
Creates a record, and of course that would be seen that to whom he has casted the vote.
Is that possible in this short period of time?
Well, a constitution amendment, if the government and the opposition is ready and they get 2/3 majority, then it's not a problem, because it's
can it be done via an ordinance?
No, it cannot be. The Constitution cannot be amended through an ordinance. This is very like we had discussed it earlier.
Thank you very much for clarifying. Fareed Rais, do tell me, why is it that the government that is very confident about its performance, and it is very confident about its support within its own ranks, wants an open ballot?
Actually, the thing is the narrative which was taken by the government, that before in the past Senate elections there was the horse trading, there was the involvement of the money,
in the Senate elections, and the narrative given by the government is that they want to eliminate the involvement of the money and the house trading in the recent past, which used to occur in the Senate elections. But on the other way around, if the opposition is not taking it on the way as the government is talking about, and they want to say that the government performance is not up to the mark, and that's why they want to know about that if any of their members who do not vote them in the Senate, because the Senate elections are very important for the PTI government, because at this moment the PTI government, they wish to have the numbers in the Senate government because in the Senate.
But here's the concern. Recently there was a no confidence movement against Chairman Senate, right? There, the Chairman Senate, who is an ally, whose original party is ally of the government, actually didn't have the kind of numbers, but he survived. It went in the favor of the government, not against the government.
That's it.
And repeatedly it has been happening. So what has changed now?
The basic thing is this is I wish to answer that question also about the time also, and about the 2/3 of the majority, because as Barrister Saab said that if we need to change it, we need to change the constitution, and for the change of the constitution we need the 2/3 majority.
Right.
So for this thing, the government is trying, and now the government is trying its best to communicate with the opposition benches, with the opposition parties. But at this moment,
is it what the secret contacts between People's Party and PTI are about?
It is all about the contact between the People's Party also, between the PTI, and also the message has been conveyed to the PMLN also. But at this
moment,
moment,
has conveyed the message?
No, but in between the person or the focal person in between.
Yeah.
It's not about
because
the one
since you were not identifying the person who is carrying out.
It's not a secret,
My concern was
it's
that
not a
perhaps
secret
you are going
messenger.
to
It's an open one. It's an open one, because before the commencement of the National Assembly sessions, the PTI communicated the opposition benches to the People's Party, to PMLN.
So no conspiracy theory.
Yeah, no. It's very open. But at this moment, the opposition tried to play it, because the opposition didn't showed up on the day when the government was to. Yeah, on Monday. It was on Monday.
Monday and Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday, both. Yeah. So PMLN didn't show up, and on the other way around, the PMLN they took a stance that the government is trying to communicate us, because the PTI government wants an NRO and the PMLN is not willing to give any kind of an NRO. So they're trying to twist and spin the things.
Yeah, and they keep on doing that. But once again, Ibrahim Khan Sahab, since we are talking about the elections which are due, which are coming very quickly, approaching quickly, the word has it that you plan to actually conduct the elections within the first or second week of February. In that scenario, you don't have the time to actually amend the constitution by 2/3 majority. What exactly are you going to do?
I think our stance is to make a point that we give it a try for the purpose, for the sheer reason that it should be crystal clear and nobody should be bickering about it.
So this entire thing is just symbolic.
It is not just a symbolic. If you agree with it, then let's do it together. If you don't agree, don't blame us tomorrow.
Okay.
This is the basic concept, and I think this is a common sense.
Okay.
I mean, because after every single election, regardless of whichever way it has been handled, is one party or the other is claiming always there is a rigged election and all that. So we want to fix that, basically.
Right. And it is by any chance not about the speculation in the media that perhaps the government doesn't trust its own allies in the parliament, and there's a possibility of some kind of flow crossing at all?
No, sir. No. I don't think that is the case at all.
Speaking of secret contacts, you understand that there are reports that there are contacts between PMLN and PMLQ.
Yes, they have, and we had a contact with the PMLN leadership. I mean, their second tier, maybe you can call, or the PPP. Also.
No, I'm not talking about that kind of contacts. Yeah, contacts regarding Jod Tod and all.
Sure, I can understand that, and but I think we are very much comfortable with the situation. You can simply look at the political scenario right now. I mean, what's going on between, within the PDM.
And today the confidence of the government was quite visible via through the press conference or talk of Sheikh Rashid Ahmad, the Interior Minister as well. But here's the question: if you are that confident, why haven't you finalized the Senate list for candidate list?
You see, these are decisions which are taken by the party, and party is not bound to, just declare the list of people at a certain time.
No, you realize
I mean,
that
it has to be.
Your party is part of democracy. It believes in democracy.
It is democracy. It will be.
And democracy is because of people, right?
And it is, yes, absolutely.
So in politics, there has to be transparency.
There has to be transparency.
You will have to declare the list of your candidates eventually.
We will have to, but we cannot at the, wish of somebody's, asking us to declare
I'm
the list.
just a reporter asking you a question.
I'm just saying that it's not all that, like all other parties. I mean, you keep on making decisions till the last moment. I mean, decisions
Who does?
can be, it's politics.
Right, but you
it's
don't change your candidates.
No,
but you don't change your candidates until the last hour, do you?
This is exactly what I am saying, that there is a possibility. I mean, you can make changes.
Why?
Your own political considerations.
Which are?
I mean, it can be anything. I mean,
fear of floor crossing?
No, there is no fear of floor crossing. I mean, just weighing between the people who are available, like 1, 2, and 3. Which one is better than the other? If one can prove better than the rest of the two, then...
Barrister Umar Malik, in 2017, it was celebrated that the opposition and government had finally actually concluded a method to work out the electoral details and reforms. And yet these problems actually keep on coming before us. Why is it that we cannot work out the details for once?
See, the parties, when they come to a situation like today, the government feels that, I think the government feels that they would not be able to secure many seats in Senate, like it appears. That is why they are going towards the Constitution Amendment. So once the situation appears, then they start looking to at their interests, and then they try to change the laws accordingly. They try to, do the things which are more beneficial to them.
But on merit itself, don't you agree with the government's point of view that in these elections a lot of money is used, and it is all black money, and it is all corruption, and there must be a way to stop it?
I think it's a good idea, but I think it would have been better, like before this, if they could have amended the laws and make the no confidence motion public as well. That would have been better if they were, they thinking about changing the laws.
There must be some confusion. You're talking about a no confidence vote within the Parliament, within the Senate, which is not a procedural vote. It is, either you bring somebody down or not. We are talking about, elections that create the Senate.
That create the Senate, of course, it's a good idea. I mean, if both the opposition and the government agree, they can go for the amendment.
Why is it that for past 20 years, we have all been talking about reforming the electoral laws, and repeatedly in the end, somebody is butted that this bit is not correct, or that bit has to be
But it's all about the interest and circumstances of that time. That is why even today, if we amend it, after 5 years, we might be sitting here and saying that, we might be sitting here and according to those circumstances, we might be sitting here and discussing the secret ballot again. That was a better law, and we should bring it back rather than going for a open ballot.
Right. So, and do you in the end believe that there is more debate needed for Senate, because we don't have direct elections in Senate?
Yeah, we don't have. I think it's a very good idea to go for direct elections in Senate than going for an open ballot. It's a very
divide the entire country's territory by 104 seats, right?
Yeah.
And think that a senator in a direct election will be able to spend that kind of money?
I think if we go through the election laws and rules about one MNA seat and the expense provided in those laws,
MNA
do you think that
smaller in comparison to a Senate seat?
Yeah. So I'm going towards that. Do you think that actual expense which is incurred by an MNA is that which is mentioned in the rules? That is not. I mean, we all know it.
Yeah.
So you are very right. It is also about the expenses. That can also be seen. But it's a better idea to go for direct elections rather than going for
Farrukh, you must have some inside news as well. What is the going rate for a Senate vote?
You asked just a question. I have never been involved in this kind
of... No, you must have heard things, right? I mean, 1 crore, 5 crores, 10 crores?
It's billions.
Billions? Billions per voter?
Billions. You are talking about the Senate?
Yeah.
About the Senate seat, it's a huge amount of money. It's a hell of amount of money.
Okay.
It's not a game about of a person who doesn't have some kind of money. Yes, money was involved, but the basic thing is that you just talked about those electoral reforms or the things. The basic thing is that this is the need of the hour. In spite of talking about each and every single moment about the electoral reforms, about the Senate elections, about the National Assembly elections, we should bury it once and for all. And for this, you need to have the serious consideration about all the benches regarding of any of the government benches or the opposition benches.
Treasury and opposition.
Yeah. They all need to fix it. This thing, because the basic thing is now. Before that,
hang on. I'm glad that you have pointed out that the government and opposition need to work together.
Yep.
But you realize that if they work together, because we don't have very good campaign finance laws, a treasury of every political party is nearly empty, with the exception of the moment they sell tickets. Then it actually is akin to depriving them of ready cash. 1. 2, you're talking about these institutions like Parliament and Executive. Do you think that there are other institutions involved as well? For example, Election Commission should also be focusing on this matter, or it is solely a responsibility of the political class, which has everything to lose if they actually tighten the laws?
You are very well aware of, and we all are very well aware of the election laws and what the election law says about contesting an election. In the recent past, in the last 2018 elections, you must also know about what kind of expenditures a candidate have, and in spite of written by the Election Commission of Pakistan, in spite of the rule, what kind of expenditures were there? So was there any authority or was there any kind of an action taken by the Election Commission of Pakistan? Number one thing, the rule must be implemented.
No, hang on. But you are actually pointing out dysfunction. My question is, whose responsibility it is?
The basic thing is the Parliament should make some kind of amendment. The basic
Which Parliament?
This Parliament.
This has very tied up majority, right? Very near majority, sharp majority, and when you look at the overall state of affairs, it is nearly a hung parliament. How do you propose these reforms?
We need to understand, though it is a hung parliament, but there are certain things on which we need to be united. We need to think over it. It doesn't mean that if you have a 2/3 majority or you have a hung parliament, there are certain things. Is it good that you always quarrel about all the same things we are hearing about for the past couple of years and the decades about all these, that there is the rigging, the election, the process?
Good Lord. Farid, do you live in this country?
Yes.
You don't know the realities of politics?
I know.
You honestly think that is going to happen?
I know it, but the basic thing is, we are talking about, we can talk about it. Yes, it is an parliament right now. The government is running from pillar to post to get the 2/3 majority or the majority to amend the constitution. This is the thing why the government is communicating with all the political parties.
Let us hope in coming days this problem is fixed. But regarding another thing, sir, you keep on talking about, your government has been talking and focusing on fighting corruption, right? And one can understand when you came into power, there were many problems you inherited. One of them was corruption, and you have been trying to fix it. Past 2.5 years might be somebody else's. You can blame somebody else for whatever difficulties you had. But day before yesterday, you hit the halfway mark. And now the Transparency International, other reports are suggesting that corruption has not gone down, it has become further systemic. So who should we blame now?
You know, as a matter of fact, we all are responsible to a certain extent for this.
We all, as a nation?
As a nation, as a society.
Yeah, but
because we
before
all
you came
have
to power,
contributed to this, and
Sir, with due respect,
for our own facilitation.
Sir,
or
before you
for
came to power, there was a very specific class which was responsible. Now you are in power. It is the entire society which is responsible for corruption.
Since I have come from the grassroots level politics, so I know people are forced basically into delaying, using delaying tactics in order to get compensations. This is what the people who are in a position to execute the order are the ones basically who are taking advantage of the people, and I mean the common man.
You are talking about bureaucracy.
I'm talking about bureaucracy. Let's be very clear about it. And in 73 years of Pakistan's history, this one class has not been really taken to task for their miscreant.
And here's the beautiful aspect of it. When you came into power, you actually created a task force to ensure that there are civil services reforms. For 2.5 years, what we hear are very small, induction kind of reforms, nothing else. You could have taken care of that as well. Reform the bureaucracy?
Sir, in my personal opinion, it's not any kind of a reform will not do it unless you bring in stringent, lethal sort of accountability.
You are talking about
China-like punishment, capital punishment.
China-like.
There is no other way around with this lot of.
How can you bring that? You'll have to amend the constitution. For that to happen, you'll have to talk to the opposition.
It is a national issue. This is not just PTI's issue. It is a national issue, and if we as a nation want to grow out of this mess, or we want to really get rid of this corrupt practices in our system, then we have to have this. Chinese at one time, trust me, they were a lot more advanced in corrupt practices than the Pakistanis.
Yeah, but we don't have, with due respect, we don't have the Chinese system in this country.
No, I'm not asking for the Chinese system.
Democracy.
All I'm saying, sir, it's we have a Western kind of a democracy, then we have the Islamic laws inducted in that too.
Yeah.
So, for facilitation of the people, we can also induct this punishment on proven corruption in the court of law.
Even Islamic laws will not give you the power to hang somebody who is corrupt.
No, I'm just not saying that. I'm just quoted an example that even the Islamic laws were inducted into it, not completely, but half-heartedly.
Let me ask Barrister Umar Malik, this interpretation of Sharia laws, when it comes to the punishment, corruption doesn't entail, I mean, as per the Islamic jurisprudence, execution, does it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
So how do you propose to actually reform?
Sir, this is why I mentioned, I refer to Islamic law. I mean, I refer to the Chinese law. I mean, if something has
Are we going to adopt the Chinese constitution now?
No, I'm not saying that take the Chinese constitution. You can take some things good out of any system, and we do not have an Islamic law here in this country.
Yeah, but how do you, this is the problem. You are talking about models, and I'm talking about modalities. If you have to adapt any constitution, any structure, any formula, you have to go through a process. That is the parliament that you have admitted you cannot do because opposition is not helping, or it can be on rebel courts, or then you can have referendum. What else is there?
Actually, presently, how I mean, I don't foresee a reason why the opposition will cooperate, because then there will be no opposition.
And then are you going to hold new elections?
Sir, whenever the time is, the nation has to make a decision and make a decision in favor of, like, give 2/3 majority to any party who can come up with these strict laws and strict implementation of those laws.
You realize if this is going to be an electoral argument, perhaps Jamaat-e-Islami will be better placed to actually make this case than you, because they have very clear kind of procedures. They claim they are more democratic than all the political parties, and then they are a bit too harsh on these things as well. But Esther Saab, why is it that a country that has lived for 73 years, which has existed for past 1 decade at least as a democracy, cannot sort these things out? And we keep on actually talking about this country's model. Remember, 4 years ago, we were talking about Bangladesh model, a Thailand model, that country's model, this country's model. Why is it that our own political system doesn't evolve organically?
Farrukh, starting with all the present government, when they were not in power, we were hearing speeches that every day billions of dollars corruption is happening in this country and doing this and that, all those things and figures, and like people are making billions of dollars, properties are there in US and in England. But now once they are in power, do we know that under even existing laws, is there any reference against any sugar mill on sugar prices? The answer is no. Is there any NAB reference on the price hike of the sugar mill?
But government doesn't control the NAB, right?
No, it's not.
But the government actually instituted an inquiry. Yeah. And that inquiry has been made public, and the sugar, cartel actually keeps on moving the courts. So that is understood. My concern is, while we are talking about, we can criticize the government, we can cut some slack to the opposition, but that will not, actually solve anything, because the Swiss cases or the stories about Swiss accounts and, this London flats and all, that will not go away. These things are facts.
Farrukh, these are the facts, but I think if we start about today, like, okay, fine, Swiss cases are there, the London properties are there, the Evanfield references are there, but today this government can start, even from today, from the petrol crisis. What has happened, you already know it, okay? The wheat prices, the sugar prices, everything, the medicine prices, the prices were increased to such a level that 200% the prices were increased, and absolutely no action has been taken by the government. So if this government keeps on talking about the other references, they have done. See,
but hang on. You are a lawyer, a barrister. You must be following what the government has done so far. Regarding FATF, you will agree with me that the government has tried to move mountains, right? Money laundering, the Hundi Hawala and the Benami accounts. They have tried to fix a lot of things, and they still keep on doing it, right? The government might not have the kind of numbers to move mountains, but it sure keeps on trying. The question is whether we are going to allow the issue of corruption become a political issue, or is it going to be a national issue where corrupt people are not allowed another chance?
Farrukh, the problem is here that only the corruption thing and only the proceedings are initiated and carried forward against the opposition here, and none of the government person or anybody from the government is made accountable for the things. So here is the problem. That's how the accountability is politicized, and that's what's happening even today. That after that the scandal which has recently come of that, what the company was, the name which we were discussing, the broadsheet thing. So now there is another commission which would be discussing and which would be going through the other things of the political people from past, not from the present regime.
No, it is actually going to look into the TORs and the entire accomplishment claims and the whole scandal and the failure, systemic failure.
I think they
Makes
should,
sense.
if that's in the TURs, that they should do it, and of course they should also go into the details that how this contract was awarded. Why have we paid billions of dollars? You know, like
Not billions of dollars.
rupees, billions
Millions
of
of
rupees and millions of
dollars.
dollars.
Millions of dollars,
dollars. So that why we you know how this all this thing has happened.
Once again, if there is a property that is in London and the owner cannot explain his resources or the way they made it, or Suez or Surrey Palace or this property or that, should we actually decide for once that we are not going to see them, we are not going to acknowledge that, and we are going to pretend that those people who own those properties are actually martyrs or heroes because they are talking about democracy?
I think as a nation, like after, you know, once the democracies move forward, and after, you know, like people get educated, I think the time might come where the people would think that this is not the right thing.
50 years?
Not the,
100 years?
If the accountability is not politicized, then within 10 years.
But
maybe.
that will happen because as a politician, if you are going to prosecute politicians, they are going to actually call themselves victims. And this is what we are seeing, Fareed, in the case of Mandviwala Saab as well, who is the Deputy Chairman Senate, and every day he speaks, it is as if he is talking about some major conspiracy to single him out.
This is the dilemma of this country, that whoever is being held accountable, that individual or the group of persons, people or a party, they just speak about that they are being victimized, and this is the thing, and this is being politicized.
Yeah.
So
I understand how they play it. I understand why media would somehow, perhaps because of connivance or political reasons, take a stance and make them martyrs, right? Why is it that the people of Pakistan forget about these matters and still vote for the same people?
they are actually busy, and they are actually right from, if you talk about the PTI government, they voted because they wanted some change. They wanted, because as the claims were
they voted, but only just.
Yeah, they
acknowledge that it is a hung parliament.
Yeah, and they vote for the change and all those things. But the basic thing is this, that whatever the case it might be, whether it should be accountability or whether it is to pledge the assets to get some kind of a loans. If we talk about this current government, we talk about
going to talk about Sukuk bond.
Yes,
and F9 Park.
Yes,
and we somehow cats took. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the overall media. When PMLN actually went for Sukuk bonds, the cat took our tongue. I mean, and then when People's Party went for Sukuk bonds, and they pledged properties also, we forgot about that matter as well.
So right about the current government also, the PTA also criticized the PMLN government when they were in the government and they pledged the property because the motorway was being pledged in the previous government.
Today, Mariam Nawaz was saying, don't pledge public properties. Your own.
One should ask that they haven't pledged the properties. They haven't pledged the property.
Federal building.
It is the responsibility of you, or as an anchor person, you might go and you just put a question, or you are just having the access to the Right to the Information Act. You just ask the finance ministry that how many properties were being pledged in the previous government. You will get a clear idea that how many properties are. But the basic thing is that by pledging the properties against the Sukuk bond is not a big thing. But the same thing was being done by the present government also for the previous government. So now they are the PMLN also.
I understand. Hang on.
And this is all the things with the accountability.
Look, if I don't have the experience of government, right, perhaps you can cut me some slack. I mean, PTI was never in power before. Now I understand what is going on in the world, right? But PMLN and People's Party have been in power for how many times?
So this is politics. This is what we call the politics. This is we call the spinning of the things. This is what you spin in politics. That whatever thing what you have done in the past, and if you are in the opposition and the government is repeating and doing the same thing what the previous governments have done, they will oppose it. This is not new. This has not been done for the first time.
Okay.
The properties are not being pledged for the first time in Pakistan. They have been pledged in the recent past also. We have been, and that was not the case that if you have pledged some kind of a property.
So Google Europe bonds. I mean, we saw repeatedly similar kind of similar things happening, right?
Yeah.
But Ibrahim Hansa, that is the biggest problem. I mean, usually, if you actually use your communication or outbursts, so to speak, strategically, there are moments when you can make these cases and people will listen. But because every day, 24/7, you are just telling people how bad the opposition is, people sort of tune out what you are saying, instead of actually listening when it is important that Sukuk bonds, actually pledging property for Sukuk bonds doesn't sell away your country. Right? It doesn't compromise the government buildings or structures or property.
First of all, that you're saying that the people are tuned out. No, they have tuned in.
Okay.
And as a result, you have seen the PDM jalsas and the way they have deteriorated over the period. And the last one in front of the this election.
You're talking about period.
Yes, I'm talking about.
You realize that that might not be because of your party. It might be because they were criticizing state institutions, and people don't actually tolerate that at all.
Absolutely, state institution was one of the reasons, but the other reason is that we have been keeping them tuned in to the reality that these are the same people who have created the atmosphere or the economic conditions.
Explain to me, why is it that all the sympathetic anchors, people who actually believe in your causes, are continuously talking about Sukuk bonds and F9 Park, and repeatedly every program is actually hammering on that this is some kind of big tragedy. Am I wrong, Farid?
But nobody is telling the clear picture about this, that this is not for the first time.
I'll explain. Sukuk bonds. Why do you need Sukuk bonds? Sir, you need
we are at the end of the program. Hold on, sir.
Right.
We are at the end of program, and the problem is that English medium people will still understand what Sukuk bonds are or how the money is raised. Right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about the private channels 24/7, which have been actually championing your government's cause for past 10, 20, 15 years, and today it seems that they are not convinced. They are your constituency.
Fine. I mean, they have the right to differ, but the thing is that you have to meet the ends, and in order to do that, you need to.
Right.
I mean,
do something about it. Absolutely, you have to do something about it. That is what you are saying,
I
right?
mean, you have $500 expense, and you have $300 in pocket,
Right.
so you have to generate another.
Ibrahim Hansa,
$200
with your
to meet-
permission, I'm going to take that as your conclusion. Let me ask Barrister Saab also to give his conclusion very quickly, sir. I'm told that we are left with 1.5 minutes.
Farrukh, Sukuk good or Sukuk bad? The thing is that
Accountability
where is the
good.
change?
Okay.
Where is the change? So if you are doing something which the previous governments were doing, so what were you saying to the youngsters, the people who voted for you, that I would rather prefer suicide than going to the IMF or taking loan and doing all these things?
Surely you can
where is the change?
tell the intentions, good intentions,
Yeah.
and capacity apart, right?
Yeah.
The state has a limited capacity. That doesn't actually reflect on the intention.
Then that should have been told to the people rather than
They are doing
those
it.
public gatherings. Speaking to public and every day. And
Farid is very kind. He keeps on smiling and giving me those human moments, right? Farid, give me the conclusion, please.
Actually, I believe in this thing. That, okay, the past, where the PTI government, but they were in the opposition, they used to criticize. But one thing very, very obvious, that the Sukuk bonds, if the government is going for the Sukuk bond, it is also a good indicator of the economy for the government also. That's why the government is planning for the Sukuk bond. And as you know, the government is also planning to go for the IMF also. So within 2 to 3 months, the IMF deal would also, and the Pakistan would be having something with the IMF also. So
Right.
it's the part of the government to convince and to portray and to tell the people that, okay, if we are doing this thing, this is the reason, and there is nothing in which the country is being sold out.
Right. But just to clarify the picture, less quantity of property is pledged against more value of Sukuk bonds this time in comparison to the last time. So that is a plus. That perhaps the economy is moving in the right direction.
And
Very quickly, sir.
last thing, the last Sukuk bonds were issued or floated at the APR, annual percentage rate of 10%. Whereas at that time the international borrowing standards were 2 to 3%.
Right.
So they borrowed the money at 3 times higher price. I hope it does not repeat the same, and this time it is done
This time it is low.
Okay.
But I'm told that we have to conclude the program. Mohammed Ibrahim Khan sir, thank you very much for your time. Barrister Umar Malik, thank you very much for being part of the program. Fareed Rais, thank you very much for being part of the program as well. Viewers, you have listened to the participants. One branch of